Hello everybody from the Gandhi Ashram in Ahmedabad. This is a site dedicated to Gandhi. He used to live here when he was in Ahmedabad. So this is the main statue of him sitting and meditating, meditating. And I don't know much about the place because I just got here and I just walked around a little bit with my aunt. But there's a river there, which I think was a more natural river before, but is now a manufactured one. But it's a very nice place to sit and be serene. I took off my shoes, so I need to put my shoes back on. So I'll talk a little bit about Gandhi. He led the freedom movement to liberate India from British colonialism. And unlike the American movement, which was violent and caused a lot of bloodshed because they did it through war, Gandhi did it through nonviolence and peace. And that it takes an extreme amount of self-discipline and belief in your cause to be able to operate at the height of morality in the way that he did. And the entire thing occurred with none or almost no bloodshed whatsoever. What they did was they made the British realize the fault of their colonialism by protesting it non-violently and peacefully. If you see the movie Gandhi, which was made in 1982, that shows what happened in the whole Gandhi life and how he fostered this movement. He would do what's called hunger strikes, and hunger strikes would lead to he'd say, if the British don't relieve this tax or do XYZ thing, I'm just gonna fast until I die. And I think that actually worked. Like, he'd get very, very thin, and then they would relieve whatever they would grant him whatever he was asking for. And you know, because they didn't want him to die. Like, they felt a morality in a way towards him as a fellow human, in the same way he felt that way about them. This, by the way, is his room. He used to stay here, and that wheel is the icon. I mean, I don't know if that's the original or a replica. My aunt says it's an original. But if it is the original, that is the wheel that's on the Indian flag. The Indian flag is orange, white, and green. And there's a wheel in the center. That spinning wheel is designed to talk about, it represents self-sufficiency. Because instead of buying British textiles and clothing, he said you should spin your own, make your own, live simply. And he wore a simple white dhoti, it's called, for most of his life, that we know about. And that table he would sit and write, and he would just sit here and think. And with the power of his thought and the power of his words, he changed the world. Truly, he is still a major figure of history and a major figure of inspiration for a lot of people as it stands today. I think that's the most interesting room. There are a lot of other statues and places and things here. So let's go to the river. So there's a scene in the movie Gandhi where all these Indians go up to the British soldiers and they're protesting something, and they walk in lines to the British soldiers, and the British soldiers beat them. And some of these Indians get blood. That's why I said maybe almost no bloodshed. They get bloodied faces, bloodied whatever, and they'd fall to the ground. And then another line would walk, and the British would beat them. And another line would walk, and the British would beat them. And then the British soldiers just stopped. They couldn't believe that they were just beating these helpless, innocent people. And they stopped. They just they couldn't keep doing it. Because these people weren't resisting them. They weren't attacking them. Compare that to a battlefield of World War I, where you have people throwing grenades at each other, like bombing each other, shooting each other from miles away, just to get a few miles of land here and there in the trench warfare. You can see movies about this. It's horrific. And it's traumatizing, honestly. I watched these things when I was growing up, and they still haven't left my mind. And I don't think kids should be able to watch war movies, honestly. But with the relation to Gandhi, there's the river. He motivated people to march with courage and to not harm somebody. And as a result, the other side reciprocated. Not initially, because several lines of these people did get beaten. But eventually, and it didn't take too long, they stopped. How did Gandhi foster that? How did Gandhi foster people to walk, to be bloodily beaten? It's so much easier to march people to, go and shoot and kill other people and maybe get shot in the process. And that's what's happened through history. More and more and more than anything else. That's why war is so common, because that urge and that impulse is so natural. He forced people to look beyond. Or he didn't force them, actually. He inspired them through his own example. So what can people learn from that? The intentions you have for how you're going about something mean so much for the effect that it's going to have. It means so much for fostering loyalty within people. And Gandhi was a great leader in that regard. And his movement inspired Martin Luther King, who attained civil liberties for the African American community in the US with the same principles. He did not advocate violence. He advocated peaceful protest. And he came to India to visit Ahmedabad, I think, or to see Gandhi's land. He might have come to this Gandhi Ashram, actually. So that's part of the heritage of India. And that's one of the things that makes India such a special place. It has this amazing person in its history. Albert Einstein wrote after Gandhi's death that for 1,000 years, people will hear about this guy, this person, and not believe that a person like that could have walked the earth in flesh. And what Gandhi did is he didn't mortify his flesh. He had no interest in harming his body to move beyond his body, but he was aware that his body was mortal. He was aware that he could bend his body as he needed to. After one of his hunger strikes in the movie Gandhi, this is how I saw it. This amazing thing happened outside. Like the British stopped whatever they were doing, and these people came and they started giving Gandhi food and they congratulated him. He says, all that's happened is that I've become thinner. And if you think about it, that, think of it from his perspective. All he's doing is just sitting there not eating. Granted, it's with the conviction that he's willing to die if things don't go the way he wanted. He was willing to sacrifice himself. But ultimately, what really happened for him? He just got thinner. It's true. At a very experiential level, it's true. He just didn't eat. That's it. But he didn't eat, and he set an intention that I want XYZ thing to happen. And so it happened, exactly as he wanted it to. Oh man, I'm stuck. I'm trying to get out of here. There's something I want to show you, actually. So that's one of the amazing things about Gandhi, like to be able to lead a revolution without it being violent, to convince a power that had spent years extracting money, wealth, so forth from a country, to voluntarily leave, to convince them to do that. Not through power, not through force, but not through direct power, not through demanding it, but through convincing them that this is wrong and showing with his own heart and his own morality. It's never been done before. Not that I know of, not that anybody knows of. So he was a great pioneer in that respect. So, all right, I'm going to show you something. The movie Gandhi is an amazing one. I'm sure it won Best Picture, and I'm sure Ben Kingsley won Best Actor for that role. It'll make you cry, probably. It made me cry. I watched it in 2012 when I was 20. So you feel humble. You feel humility like you wouldn't feel when you're watching another type of movie. How many people have been hurt? How many people have been hurt by somebody who relentlessly continues hurting them? And then what do people do? They fight back naturally. And then once that conflict starts, it keeps on going. It can happen within relationships between people, and it can happen between countries. It can happen between different groups of people, and the conflict is endless. In Gandhi's case, he would sooner sacrifice himself than sacrifice somebody else. He said, there's no cause I'm willing to kill for, but there are many that I'm willing to die for. because he put himself first with respect to surrendering himself, with respect to surrendering his life. He was able to create and cultivate a country. He is the father of the country. He was offered the prime minister role, but he didn't want it because he didn't think he was suited for it, or I don't know why. But this, by the way, this thing my grandfather made, and he donated it to Gandhi Ashram in the 70s. Yeah, and my grandparents lived here in Ahmedabad for many years, and he made this wooden or stone or whatever statue, or whatever this thing is called, and he donated it to Gandhi Ashram. So yeah, I wanted to show that. But yeah, what else is there to be said about Gandhi? He could have lived for a while, actually, probably, if he didn't get shot. You know, he was just leading one of his movements, and someone shot him 3 times in the chest, and he died. But he got to see his wish, which was that India be free. India got independence in 1947, and he died in August. And their Independence Day, I believe, is August 15th. And it's like July 4th for the Americans. And he died in January of 1948. So he got his goal. And I don't think he ever thought he'd see the day. Maybe he did, you know, and it was a decades-long process. When did he start? In the 20s or something? He would lead these salt marches and all these things. Everything that the British used to extract money from the Indians or unfairly tax them or whatever, he tried to get Indians to foster for their own self. So the Salt March was something like that. There are all sorts of marches like that. It's similar to what the Americans did with regard to the Boston Tea Party and things, but the manner in which it was done was completely different. It was all about self-sufficiency, and that's what that circle, that wheel, that spinning wheel in the Indian flag is about. So I would end this positing anybody to ponder in their own life how can these lessons apply to someone's life, not in terms of creating some large movement, but in terms of fostering a better relationship with someone around you, in terms of coming to terms with a relationship or conflict that didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe it's as simple as, instead of all these stories in your mind about how bad things are and how much you don't like someone else, maybe it's as simple as Gandhi said, I've only become thinner. Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe that person's not in your life now. Maybe when it comes to a conflict, you can offer yourself first instead of attacking. Offer vulnerability. Offer love. Offer some dignity. Don't demand it. Offer it. Gandhi created a nation by doing that. And every person can create a beautiful life within themselves and a beautiful surrounding environment if they themselves go first. You must always go first in creating what you want. And it's not about trying to manipulate the external world. It's about offering of yourself. And when that happens, every aspect of someone's life can change. So, as best as I can, I will use these principles myself, and I hope you do too. These are my musings from Gandhi Ashram.